Tyler, I don't think the world is ready for what we were about to bring them. This is the South End Zone. I am Chad. You see Tyler over there. We got an LSU grad over here. Not a Georgia grad, but he's a big-time Georgia fan. Might as well have been. That's right. But we are here to bring you SEC country in a way that I don't know that anyone else has ever done, where we're not like big rivals, but we're not both LSU fans or both Georgia fans or anything like that. But we are here to bring you SEC sports, starting right now with this huge weekend in college football. Georgia going up against number 1 Tennessee and LSU going up against number 6 Alabama. Tyler, you ready to do this?
Dude, I am so ready. I'm so excited. We finally have our, I want to call it an SEC safe space, because all the other shows that you and I are on together, just for not our own fault, not intentionally, not on purpose, you and I end up shoehorning it into a conversation about our favorite teams.
Yeah.
All of our friends know it and love us still the same, no matter what. But now we have an outlet to talk about, the best conference in the world, our favorite teams, and allow anybody else to, share in that love.
That's
this
right.
This is a conference with more than just 2 teams. Even though we may not like your team, we still appreciate that you're around. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, we can respect the quality of the opposition in the SEC that we face. No shade to John, to AG, to any of the other guys, but look, it's not our fault if it's so boring to talk about Penn State and Rutgers or whoever the hell else y'all want to talk about, and we end up, veering into, just meandering into these conversations that go right back to the heart of football, which is SEC country. So
Absolutely.
Look, it's not our fault. It's not our fault that this is where the best football is played.
No, it's not.
It just is what it is.
Of the since the playoff since 2014, and how many was just been Clemson, Ohio State. You know what I mean? Outside of the rest of us. You know what I mean? So it speaks for itself. The championships speak for itself. And like we try to be realistic too. We're not, we're not here to just be like, oh, we're the best and you're the worst. But so far that, it's even if it's not LSU and Georgia, there's still somebody in the conference at the top of the number one.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So listen, this is since the BCS era started. Or I'm sorry, it was the BCS era.
Yep.
You've had 16 seasons of like the national championship, like where it wasn't just the bowl championship series, the actual national championship game era
was a game that BCS. People played it. Yeah.
Right. Not where it's like, hey, we have these bowls, and those are we're going to try to make it as close to a playoff or a national championship game as possible. 16 seasons, 18 total appearances, 12 national championships, 5 different schools: Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Florida, and Auburn. Like no other conference can boast, because everybody always talks about, oh yeah, it's just Alabama and everybody else. Like, no, like there are 4 other schools who have won national championships.
Yeah, Florida used to terrorize everybody. Auburn used to be a good football team, believe it or not. Used to be a very good football team, believe it or not. I mean, it is what it is now, but like, it's not always just been Alabama.
Yeah, here's the best part about it, though. So, including last season, where it was Georgia against Alabama, and then if you go back to when it was Georgia and Alabama 3 years ago, and then if you go back to LSU and Alabama in 2011, well, the 2012 January game, but the 2011 season, there have been 3 national championships in this era with 2 SEC schools in that game. There's been 1 national championship game where neither team has been from the SEC. There are more games.
I gotta think about who it is.
It's the Ohio State Oregon game.
Ohio State Oregon. Ooh.
That's the last time an SEC team. That's the only time an SEC team was not in the game.
What is that? Marcus Mariota, Oregon.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota, Oregon. Yeah. So I'm just laying that out there. And look, we talked about it's 5 teams. We could add a 6th. Not to get too ahead of ourselves here. I know you don't want to hear that kind of talk because it's tender. It's very close to some nerves for Georgia fans as we go into this weekend. But we could see a sixth SEC team added to that championship list of teams in the era since they started having a national championship game. So this is the game that we're going to preview first. This is a big one. This is like the biggest weekend in SEC football in a long time, where you have number 1 going up against number 3 and then number 6 going up against number 10. We're going to get this one first. You guys get to host this one in Athens.
We do.
How you feel about it? I know you got Nolan Smith out. That's not a big.
That
that's
doesn't help.
That's not a help. Yeah.
I mean, he's like, all conference linebacker, and it is just kind of. I've had many thoughts because I don't want to come in too cocky. Yes, I can talk all this crap to my friends. Like I have one of my good friends last night. Like he's a Yankees fan. He's a Giants fan. He's a Notre Dame fan, and he tries to. I love him to death, but he tries to come at me from all different angles with these different. I was like, dude, just look at the way your team. Because he tried to give me crap about watching the Phillies last night. I was like, bro, like, come on, like,
right.
We're in the World Series. You guys got swept. Relax, okay. Anyway, I have many thoughts. One of the biggest things for me is I am honestly couldn't be happier that we are no longer the number 1 team in the country. We didn't have to lose a game to do it. Right. Whether I know it's now committee rankings versus what was it, the AP.
It gives you a little bit of a chip on your shoulder.
We do so much better without being the number 1 team.
Yeah, that target on your back is a real thing, man. Like, it's a real thing.
It's like for the longest time, like whenever we would somehow become the number 1 team in the country, like the next week would just fall apart. Like last year, being able to maintain that, it's been. I think it was like at one point, I think it's now been 16 or 17, but it's been like 31 to 32 times that the University of Georgia football team has been the number 1 team in the country. More than half of those times have been with Kirby Smart as the head coach. 32, 33 times since 1930, since they started ranking teams 1 through 25. Georgia has been the number 1 team in the country, and over half of those now have been since 2016, 2015. Like, isn't like that? That's crazy to me. You know what I mean? So us not being the number 1 team in the country, kind of doing us a favor. But people forget that we did walk into Neyland with Hendon Hooker at the helm last year and beat him 40-17. Now that is a different team.
Yeah,
massively different team, obviously, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But we did walk into Neyland and win 41-17 last year. That's different team for them, different team for us. Same head coach.
Right.
Same quarterback for us.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's just going to be one hell of a game. And I've also been thinking about it more and more. You can't take away the historical context of Tennessee beating Alabama, but is it more about, I don't know, I'm rambling. Is it more about Tennessee being that good? Or is it maybe, and God forbid, Alabama not being on their best this year? Because Tennessee went to the wire with Florida in the beginning of the season. Now, people can be slow to start, and that's fine. But 38-33, barely beating Florida. They did whatever to LSU, but I feel like you see them. LSU sees Florida now. LSU sees Tennessee now. That's a different game, in my opinion.
Well, if we don't fumble the opening kickoff, it would definitely help.
Yeah, seriously.
That really kind of it's very much a shot in the foot to fumble the opening kickoff to the opposition.
But look
on
at
the
Alabama.
25-yard line. Yeah.
Look at Alabama almost losing to A&M. Look at Alabama almost losing to Texas. Look at Alabama almost losing. Yes, they obviously are still Alabama, and they're obviously still good, and they're going to be good. But there's levels. Alabama's never going to be bad, but there's levels to how good they can be, right?
I'll say this, though. I get what you're saying, but I think a lot of times we have some recency bias with this stuff. And I think we tend to forget that Alabama does this every year. Maybe not necessarily to this extent, but Alabama always plays their worst football
in the beginning of the
September
year.
On October. Yeah. And October usually the worst because that's when the competition meets how bad they're playing. And then by the time we roll around to November and they get 2 weeks to prepare for us, then we get the worst, we get the brunt of it.
The best version of the team.
Yeah. Because I remember when Ole Miss beat them. And they had like one play where like Alabama had an interception and it bounced off the guy's hands and flew up into the air, and the receiver just kept running under it.
I remember watching that game.
And I mean, it was crazy. Crazy. That game was wild. So I'm just saying, like, I want to pump the brakes a little bit on Alabama's that bad, but I will say this: I predicted last year before the season even started, or maybe it was after a couple of weeks, that we were doing like a bold takes thing on the other show, and my bold take was, well, I started off by saying that Saban was only going to be at Alabama for under 3 years, which that's probably not going to happen. But they were like, oh God, 3 years? That's like they wanted me to say he's going to get fired next year or something like that. I was like, all right, you want something really bold? And this is something that I actually think could be possibly true. I was like, Nick Saban has already won his last national championship. That was my bold prediction. And I think as you start to look at the landscape of things, look at what Georgia's doing. Look at what Tennessee's doing with Josh Heupel, the program, the type of atmosphere and identity that he's building there. And then I don't know what's going to happen with Florida. I'm not sure about Auburn. I mean, they finally got rid of Brian Harsin, but they may be. We can talk about this later after we get through these two matchups, but we got to talk about Lane Kiffin possibly being a candidate to go to Auburn, because there's some stuff.
Do you think he'd leave Oxford?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's money talks, and that dude like wears out his welcome so fast. It's
money does, but here's the thing: Auburn.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that right now. Let's talk. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So what I'm getting at though is, with Saban, I think we could see with Brian Kelly at LSU, with if Texas A&M can actually turn this recruiting class into something and not have half of those guys leave through the transfer portal. Then you got Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC in a couple of years. Like it's going to start to get, if Saban doesn't win another championship in the next 2 or 3 years, it may get to the point where he's approaching 80. And the game is starting to pass him by a little bit. You're already starting to see where some of the stuff, as much talent as they have, there's some little attention to detail stuff that you never see Alabama do. Turning the ball over like they do, committing the penalties that they're committing. There's some of this stuff where it's just like, I almost make the joke sometimes. Whenever somebody else is playing, people always say, a Saban team would have never done this. And I was watching Alabama do it against Tennessee, and I was like, this is ridiculous. A Nick Saban coach team would never do this.
You mean like having your star defensive player line up offsides the entire game? Like
exactly, exactly, right. So anyway, I think we can take a little bit of that Tennessee win with a grain of salt, but I don't want to take it with too big of a grain of salt, because I think that Alabama has done this okey doke to us too many times in the past.
I just you want to be confident in your team, but you have to be realistic with how good this Tennessee program has looked
right
this season so far. You know what I mean? Like you've whenever I've not given my team enough credit, you've always given me crap for it. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's okay. We can cuss on this show, I think.
Okay.
We're gonna go for it. Maybe we'll change it later on, and we'll start making our episodes okay for kids, but this one's not.
Okay. Sounds good. You know what I mean? But you have to be realistic. There's the books are still making us 8.5 point favorite.
Yeah.
To the now number one team in the country. Which I just cannot believe, because looking at it from a betting perspective, 76% of the bets are on Tennessee. So I don't know why this number is what it is still.
Yeah.
It's 3:30. It's in Athens. Thank God. So there'll be a sea of red and black, which is what we need. I think this will be one of the most raucous games Athens has seen in a while, if we're being honest, because in recent history, a lot of Georgia's best games have been away from Athens. Georgia against Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl. Georgia against Alabama. That's at Mercedes-Benz twice. You know what I mean? A lot of Georgia's best games in recent history have not been most memorable, I guess you could say, have not been in Athens, unless we're getting upset. You know what I mean? Like, in my recent memory, I feel like all of our best, most crazy, oh my God, people are texting me games have not been when we're playing at Athens, have been when we're playing in Mercedes-Benz, where we're playing, you know, in a bowl game somewhere else in the country, or we're playing, you know what I mean? Because we don't have to play Alabama. Luckily for us, sorry for you, we don't have to play Alabama every year.
Yeah.
You know, we have a rotating. We play our West schedule is Auburn every year. That is slated, guaranteed, and then a rotating second. So we don't have to play Alabama all the time.
Ours is Florida every year, which is not as bad now, but it has been brutal in the past.
Well, with Urban, Tim Tebow,
Steve Spurrier too. I mean, shit, it was ever since they switched to the division format. It was like, oh, sweet, thanks. Why don't we get Vanderbilt?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like,
what
the hell? This is terrible. But no. So quickly, I want to get into the actual nuts and bolts of this matchup.
Yeah, how do you feel about this game?
Well, I mean, so all right, my model has you guys favored by 1. The 8.5, I think, is a little steep, but I get it on a certain level. I think that there's the one thing that we have that could be from an emotional standpoint working against Tennessee is that, first of all, that Alabama game is a huge rivalry. They're not a huge rival of you guys, you know. So that's not that little bit of extra. Yeah, that little extra juice is not quite there.
Yeah.
Also, I think that Alabama victory and that number 1 ranking, man, I don't know how Josh Heupel is handling that.
It'd be tough.
But that's tough. That's really tough with a team it'd be one thing if it was you guys who had knocked off a big opponent and then got the number 1 ranking.
Because Kirby's been there. Kirby knows how to handle that.
Kirby's won the championship before.
Yeah, we've been there. We know how
Tennessee's
to handle.
Never done it. They don't know how to even that keel so that you're about your business and you're not going in there like your shit doesn't stink. Because I think right now everybody's blowing them up. And this is Hendon Hooker's Heisman moment and all this other stuff. And I'd stay away from it from a betting standpoint.
Me too.
But it's just not. I don't know. It's just it's a tough tough call for me. But let's get to the numbers and why I think that the advantage, I think, lies heavily for you guys. Now, granted, you guys had the close call with Missouri. You had a close call with Kent State that you shouldn't have had.
Listen.
So let's, you know, I think there's some reason to be a little bit cautious and a little bit concerned maybe, but I think some of that stuff it's always healthy when you can have games like that and still come out of it alive.
Yeah, because
then you get to fix all the stuff you did wrong.
Yeah, I got some. Yeah, I got some. A thing that I've always felt like, and I have Alabama specifically to blame for it, is setting the unfair precedent that you win the national championship, that you just have to go and set the world on fire again the next season.
No.
You know, after 15 of our starters got drafted to the league last year, are playing on Sundays, that Alabama set the ridiculous precedent that you just have to go back the next year. You have to continue to be number 1 team. Obviously we still are playing well, but you know what I mean? I don't know.
That's to that point though, I think what you're doing is you're actually making the case that this team I think has actually shown some signs of what a typical legitimate championship caliber squad does. And that is, you go back and look, that's why I brought up what I brought up about Alabama. Alabama doesn't run roughshod through their schedule every year. They have a couple of close calls every year with somebody who they shouldn't. They were like tied with the Citadel one year at halftime.
I remember that.
You know what I'm saying? Like this is not some like juggernaut that cannot be. You know, there are no. They can't be wounded. They can't bleed. Sort of, you know, mythical creature. They are human. But what they do show is that when they get to that point, their little internal thermostat says, whoa, time to kick the AC back on.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
or in the cases when it gets too bad, it's like time to turn up the heat,
Yeah.
and so they will get back where they need to be real quick.
A little
And that's
homeostasis, just
yes,
nice and
and
even.
that's why I always see like they start playing their best football in November, and then they're still gonna like go and like probably almost lose to Auburn. Because that's just what happens. Like there's no reason why they should have even been in a game last year. And the way that the game played out, they should not have won that game by any stretch. All they have to do, if Auburn takes a knee, if that kid doesn't run out of bounds, the game's over. And instead he runs out of bounds. Alabama gets the ball back because there's a little bit of time left.
Yeah.
They go down, tie it. It goes into overtime. Boom. Alabama wins,
Yeah.
and they're undefeated going into or no, they had the one loss to A&M. They made it to the playoff and to the SEC championship game with one loss. Yeah. So what I was saying is that I think this shows that you guys are kind of making your way through that. Like, look, it's a marathon, not a sprint. That sort of mentality. That's the kind of when you see it in the NFL all the time. Where I look at like the Green Bay Packers right now. I still think they're going to make the playoffs, and I still think they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Same thing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like all the stuff that looks like it's a shambles right now, I put down some futures bets on those two teams because I'm just like, you think I'm going to bet against Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, like so much so that I'm not even going to like give them a prayer because of how bad they look right now? They do this all the time. They look like crap for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they fix a couple of things and it's off to the races. And I think you guys are set up that way. And if you look at the numbers, I actually think that you guys shape up pretty well. So let's go to the matchup here. I look at, all right, so 49 points for, 21 points against for Tennessee. They're a very high scoring team. Obviously, they're very potent offense. You guys are still scoring almost 42 and only giving up 11 or 10 and a half. Then I look at Tennessee 553 total yards to Georgia's 530. But then I look at the yards allowed. Tennessee's given up almost 400 a game. You guys are only giving up 260. So I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking, and I know it's schedules aren't identical and there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, but I just look at this over the course of enough time, the schedules get close enough to the same that you can't necessarily say it's all about just competition being different.
Yeah. We're both in the SEC East, so we have to play a majority of the same teams. Like at least half of our schedule is the exact same. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I will say this, it is the one thing that makes me feel good is the fact that yes, Tennessee can score 50, but they can't keep other people from doing it to them. You know what I mean? Like Tennessee, it's not like Tennessee beat Alabama 55-10.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it was whoever got the ball last, whoever kicked the field goal last wins.
And to be honest, I thought Tennessee had lost the game when they fumbled that mesh. I mean, that when they lost that mesh point, I was just like, oh God, this is it. This is what Alabama does. Like this, like Saban, he prays to whoever he prays to in the fourth quarter, and like shit just happens. They give him the whether it was the Patrick Peterson interception where he was like inbounds by 1.5 yards, and they said he was out of bounds. They went to replay, still said he was out of bounds. Or if it's you name it, there's so many different personal fouls on defensive linemen that should happen that don't happen, or in this case it's a turnover that or Mount was his
Tyler Simmons lining up offsides in the SEC in the national championship. Supposedly Georgia lining up offsides.
Right.
Replay showed he wasn't offsides, and it still said he was offsides.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
It's part of what happens. So I think I don't know. I think it's going to be a great game. I really do, and I think as much as we want to look at this and say like, oh man, it's scary that y'all are still favored and everything. I think the books see it correctly. It may be closer than that 8.5, but I think directionally they are correct.
Yeah, so. Also like my thought is like, is Vegas really gonna let everybody 76% of however many number of people run away with their money on Tennessee?
Right.
I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm just saying, like that's
The answer is yeah, because I bet you there's a lot of people betting that money line, and that's
on
where they make their money back.
on Tennessee.
Yeah, because that money line's shit for Georgia. Like who
Yeah.
wants to throw down minus 250 or whatever on Georgia, or minus 180 or whatever it is for this game. You
Listen,
know,
I've already made my listen, and I made it. I started making it a habit in the postseason last year when I thought that we could do it.
mm-hmm.
Making it a habit to make my little deposit to the gambling gods. So
Oh yeah,
there is some
bet
there,
against your team.
there is some of my money that is on Tennessee money line for Saturday, and I do not feel one bit bad about it.
Oh my gosh, y'all
That
hear
is
this, right? This
that is my
guy
deposit.
this
That
guy
is
has a
me lighting my
sellout.
money on fire.
This guy's a sellout on the worst order. All right, so let me see what we're looking at money line here.
It's plus 255 on
It's
Tennessee.
plus 255. Yeah, see what I'm saying? That like ain't no way. Like they're plus 255 minus 320 for Georgia.
Yeah.
That's why nobody's betting that. so I'm looking at that. And I'm like, yeah, they're gonna rake if all that money if Georgia wins this game and it's all, you know what I mean. That's too easy. So I kind of tend to agree that this, as much as bad as it might look, they're suckering as many people into Tennessee as they can. But
I know, which I appreciate. Like it just makes me. Those are things that make me feel better, because I have to find the stuff that makes me feel better about
some
the
comfort.
number one, some Southern comfort, right?
There you go.
About the other 8-8 team who we used to dog and have dogged every year for however long that I can remember. Other than getting slightly upset, like this is me get loud, but like the team that we have just owned, right, in our own division, right, who has never given us an issue outside of one Hail Mary upset from Josh Dobbs to I forget his name and I don't even care anymore.
You probably forgot on purpose.
It's gonna hit me. It's gonna hit me. It's a Tennessee receiver. It's gonna hit me at some point.
Well, I hope it's a Tennessee receiver. That would be silly if it weren't. But yeah. But
anyway,
I'm ready to move on to the most important matchup of the weekend.
That's fine. By all means.
So
I did my talking.
So let's. But yeah, that I know what you mean. It's
Jawan Jennings.
Okay, there you go. Now we have
it just hit me because I hear Gary Danielson yelling his name. That's why it just hit me. Or Brent Musburger or something.
I got to say this much though. On that note, I'm glad you brought that up before we move on to the LSU Alabama game. I'm so glad that they did you guys the disservice of having to listen to Gary Danielson for your entire broadcast. Of course, I'm going to have like Joe Tessitore or some nonsense, and Greg McElroy. I'm going to have to listen to an Alabama quarterback talk about LSU during the game, which is going to suck. But I don't think anybody can hate us or hate y'all as much as
they did you the most favors they possibly could.
How's that?
No, I shouldn't say that. Not with the terms of the broadcast. Like, I don't have a favorite broadcast. I'm talking about that you guys get Bama. You guys get Bama at a night game in Tiger Stadium.
Oh yeah, no, it's big, but that hasn't. Look, I don't know how far back I have to go to find.
I know.
I think it was 2009. 2010. 2010, Jordan Jefferson.
Okay.
Is the last time LSU beat Alabama in Tiger Stadium.
Was that the 9-6 game? Did you win that?
No, that was in Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
No, this
really
was
2010?
Yeah, this was we lit them up, and Julio Jones was playing. We lit them up, and Jordan Jefferson just went nuts to like Terrence Tolliver and some other maybe Reuben Randall was involved in some of that. But anyway,
was that McElroy? Was that McElroy? Was that McCarron? Who was that?
That would have been McElroy, I think, because McCarron was there for the 2011 and 2012 games.
I'm just curious. See, now we have the ability to go on these.
Right.
You know,
right. These little tangents.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just looking at it, the way I'm kind of envisioning this. First of all, I'll just say this right out front. I don't think we're winning this game. I think we probably cover because 13.5 is a lot, and I think this game is closer than that. I could even be wrong there. Like Saban just has this, like he. It's not bad enough that he left a perfect job at LSU where he could have built his dynasty that he has built at Alabama. He could have built it here. Left that because he got selfish and decided to go try to suck at the NFL, and he succeeded at sucking in the NFL.
I went to the Dolphins, right, and then just
yes.
blew,
just completely imploded. And they had a lot of talent too. They had Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams, and they didn't have much at quarterback, but they had talent. But he can't run his little, military camp
with grown adults,
grown men, and he can't just. Well, the other thing is too. So, look, it's an SEC show. Let me take the screen here. I'm just going to go on a little diatribe here for a second. I have all the respect in the world for Nick Saban. I have all the respect in the world for like Mike Krzyzewski, Rick Pitino, Dean Smith, all these great coaches in the past and in the present. I get it. Like there are some guys who are just they're really good at what they do, and their game management is really good, and their ability to scheme and to plan for matchups is really good. But let's call a spade, and let's stop giving them undue credit for being these mastermind X and O geniuses, when the reality of the matter is 90% of their success comes from the fact that they simply out-talent the living shit out of almost everyone that they come into contact with.
Yep.
You cannot tell me that when you have the number 1 or number 2 recruiting class for like 12 consecutive years, that you aren't at a distinct talent advantage over everyone else you play, including the good teams that you play.
Yeah. Us. They've out-talented us many times.
It's insane. It's ridiculous. Like and with all due respect, like I get Les Miles was left a lot to be desired. Don't get me wrong. But I really don't think from an XO standpoint, I don't think the difference is that big. Saban was just able to do the retarded stuff that Miles did and get away with it. Yeah. When Miles was better, when he had the talent advantage before Saban really got his feet under him at Alabama, we just ran the ball down Alabama's throat for a couple of years. Like before that debacle in the national championship game in 2011, 2012, before that, Les Miles was, I think he was either 4-2 or 4-3 against Saban overall. And in some ways had like that 9-6, that epic game of all games that they had, that game right there. Like you go back and look, and I know LSU had a hard time moving the ball in the national championship game, but you go back and look at that game, Alabama never got inside the 20 against LSU in that game. And everybody's like, "Oh, y'all only beat them because they missed all those field goals." I'm like, "Yeah, all those field goals were like 45-yarders, 50-yarders because and Nick Saban, that's his fault. He doesn't give scholarships to kickers. Maybe if you recruited kickers that were worth a shit, you wouldn't have that problem."
But anyway, Alabama's fan base has always known for the longest time that they need to do that, and he just doesn't. He just refuses to do that. I don't know. Anyway, he gets
a 5-star defensive lineman instead. And so he's like, "Yeah, screw you, kickers. We'll find someone off the soccer team or something.
Yeah, to come and kick. Exactly.
Come kick for us." And then when that dude shanks 9 field goals in an important game, then you pay the price. That's why the kick 6 game happened too. He toted a kicker out there, and it's just funny. I loved watching Nick Saban get haunted by his own anti-kicker demons. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just saying that. Like I think he's a great coach. He's the greatest coach of all time, but let's put the credit where it belongs, and that is that he is a great recruiter. He is the greatest recruiter of all time. He locked down the state of Louisiana from Alabama.
Yeah.
He's pulling people out of New Orleans and Baton Rouge and Monroe.
He pulled people out of Georgia. He pulled people out of the state of Georgia.
No, but I'm saying like he's pulling like mad people out of Louisiana because he kept all those connections that he had with those coaches when he was at LSU and just moved them over there. And those coaches still love him and they send their kids there. And there's this whole thing. Like, I don't know if y'all have this with any other school in Georgia, but like in Baton Rouge, it's crazy how many people they're going to their high school kids basketball, football games, and they're wearing Alabama gear in Baton Rouge to high school games just for no reason. They just love Alabama. And I'm like, go live over there then. I don't.
Yeah, no, I don't.
This is not that country. We don't. And I get like every now and then you'll have somebody like if there's an LSU fan up there in Pennsylvania with you, right?
Yeah.
You're like, all right, I get it. Like you got a job up here, whatever. But when I started seeing, I didn't see it not a one Alabama sticker on anybody's car when they sucked. When Mike Dubose was their coach, or any of the other asshats that they've had.
Yeah.
But no, they start winning national championship with Nick Saban. All of a sudden, everybody in Baton Rouge is an Alabama fan. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I get it. So let me bring the stats back up real quick so we can digest this matchup here. So LSU has 2 losses, one to Florida State in that opening game where they couldn't make an extra point, and then obviously that debacle against Tennessee where Tennessee just boat raced us right off the rip. So Alabama also has a loss to Tennessee. They have not played Florida State, so in terms of common opponents, you don't really have anything to go off of there to say who's better or who's worse, although Alabama did play much better in their home stadium than LSU did against Tennessee. But I think also, if you go back and look at how Jaden Daniels was playing, the way he was playing, he was way too cautious. He was holding on to the ball too long. He was trying to run more than he needed to, and he wasn't risking 50-50 balls to let our talented big stud receivers go get him. And now he started doing that. He still only has 1 interception on the year, but now he's thrown 12 touchdown passes and rushed for 9. And the numbers are starting to come in where like he's looking a lot better. I go to the stats and I look at points for, points against. Alabama's got about a 25-point differential. LSU's only around 14, but I think there's some competition difference there where I think LSU has had a little stiffer go of it. Total yards and total yards allowed is where it starts to tighten up a little bit. LSU's only given up 346 yards per game and Alabama 296. And if you look at the rushing yards, that's where I think the biggest problem for LSU is. In terms of what they give up through the air, they're pretty comparable and they've been pretty solid. And it's crazy because the secondary to me would have been the thing I would have pointed at as their biggest weakness. I think that's probably part of why they struggle against the run is because Brian Kelly knows what he's dealing with all these transfer DBs and LSU kind of taking a breather from being DBU and having all those monsters come through that have come through. We lost Eli Ricks to Alabama through the transfer portal, lost a bunch of guys. Derek Stingley, left a year early to go to the draft. We're in kind of a rebuilding phase at that position. And so, or at all the DB positions, safeties and corners. And so I think dedicating more resources to that is what makes LSU vulnerable to the run. So that's going to be interesting. Jahmyr Gibbs could have a field day, but I think with 2 weeks to prepare, I hope they have figured out a way to shore that up. And that's actually where I think this thing comes down to. As good as Bryce Young is, and as much as I respect his Heisman hopes and everything, I think that the real money for Alabama is going to come from McClellan and Gibbs in the running game. It's just going to be about whether whether Jaden Daniels is actually the kryptonite that Alabama has typically struggled with. You saw it with Hendon Hooker, with Tennessee. You've seen it with a lot of these different teams. The Clemson teams with Deshaun Watson. Saban typically tends to struggle with the athletic, mobile quarterback that can move around and can also throw the ball deep.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If you're just standing back there and he can just have his rush, pin its ears back, and come get you, that's actually why Les Miles leaned more towards Jordan Jefferson than Jarrett Lee in that season when Jarrett Lee started off the season 7-0, red hot, and then he got replaced as soon as Jefferson came back from his being indicted for kicking the shit out of a dude, which he never should have joined the team again, but that's another story for another day. I think this could be the one little thing, one little X factor that gives LSU a chance is turnovers and Jaden Daniels playing the game of his life.
Yeah. And it's about if Alabama is discipline, like, which is so crazy to think about because Alabama's always propped up as, oh, these kids are, they don't make a mistake.
Nick Saban's team never does this stuff. Yeah.
Or in my opinion, I feel like the refs are just starting to call it.
Yeah,
on them for once. That's my. I feel like I will never forget this.
That's a great segue. Keep going.
I will never forget this. Do you obviously you remember it was 2012 SEC championship with Georgia and Bama. Aaron Murray throws a pass, right? Is just standing there looking down the field, just standing there, and an Alabama D tackle.
Oh yeah.
Pull, boom, and then just nothing happens.
That was the one where y'all lost it because
by 4 yards.
Y'all threw the ball inbounds on the last play,
and we fell on the. Yeah, I guess that is exactly what it was. Yeah. But bad. You know what I mean? Like, there's stuff like that where you see like Alabama get away with little things, and I just feel like, honestly, they're just like they've always been having sort of egregious stuff just not get called. You know what I mean? Like, as disciplined as they come off as.
I totally agree.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so that's why I brought this graphic up because, whoops, I did that wrong. Leave a comment below Please. if you agree with this. Tell us which of these you disagree with, if you disagree with any of them, or if you agree with all of them. You should agree with all of them. This is from the LSU Barstool Twitter account. The Soviet Union and Alabama football, a comparison. All right. So on the left column, you have the Soviet Union, and on the right, you have Alabama. Crimson, both yes. Do they embrace bear iconography? Yes. Control the media? Yes. Gary Danielson. And also everyone on ESPN. Control corrupt officials? Yes, and yes. 2000s rebirth under a dictator? Yes. Considered the good guys in the early 40s? Yes. People under 30 don't appreciate the rivalry between LSU and Alabama, or between the U.S. and the USSR. Yes, this is correct. Anyway, ultimate goal of world conquest? Yes. They're excited by toilet paper and detergent? Yes. Limited port access to the Atlantic? Yes. Border and battle Georgia? Yes. Supporters live among us? Yes.
Oh, my best
must be defeated at all costs? Abso-freaking
Borders and battles Georgia? Yes.
Isn't that great? So I had to. I couldn't let this show go by.
Best thing I've ever heard
without some Alabama slander. We had a little bit earlier, but that really takes it home. So if you like this, there's plenty more to come. So hopefully,
that's amazing.
Hopefully all the viewers will enjoy what we did here today, and we'll keep coming back for more. Tyler, you got anything else before we wrap it up? Or are you?
No, I would definitely be riding with LSU plus. From a betting perspective, I would definitely be riding with LSU plus 13.5 this weekend. As far as we look around the league. Yeah, no, go Dogs. Go Tigers.
Well, so we did talk about the Lane Kiffin thing. Do you think there's any chance that he goes to Auburn?
We did talk about that. Because of Auburn's history of making terrible coaching decisions. Yes.
Yes. He's the perfect Tommy Tuberville clone.
Yeah, he's
like, everybody hates him. Why not? And look, he's got the Ole Miss to Auburn connection too.
And here's the thing. Auburn has, I don't know what is going on with Auburn's boosters or people that just want to throw aggressive amounts of money, just like the worst people.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? And then I'm looking around, Kentucky, Missouri, Kentucky all the way. Florida I do want actually looking at this now. Florida A&M. What are your thoughts there? We'll talk about it real quick. I don't want to keep you too long.
Oh no. We're good. I didn't want to just keep rambling on if we didn't have anything to talk about.
No,
but
I'm curious.
I'm actually going to bring up this now that you said that. I'm going to bring up the schedule now.
I'm just looking at all the SEC games for the weekend. Florida A&M is very intriguing to me.
Give me just a second. Yeah, that one's interesting. I have so I'm going to go through. I'll give you my my picks for the model as well. I've been doing this. I call it the dog catcher. We coined the name yesterday on the show with Big Mike Rader. So I've got, all right. So Kentucky, Missouri is first up on the list. So A&M Florida, I've got Florida -6.5 for my model. The spread is obviously A&M -3. So I'm leaning Florida in this one. That model, just so you know, straight up, this model so far this year is 21-19 straight up, picking underdogs only. So underdogs are 21-19 when this thing identifies them as a team that should win, and they are 25-14. No, 26-14 against the spread
for dogs. And
for
Florida's
dogs.
a +3 dog. Love
Florida's
that.
a +3 dog. Yeah, and they're heavily favored on mine. That's another thing. I got to keep whittling down to try to find like the stuff where I get the most efficient, like the highest percentage winners from it. And I think that I'm going to start going to like, where's the biggest disparity, which one is favored the most in my model, that sort of thing. The Kentucky Missouri game, only 2.5. I know they're playing on the road, and Missouri's been playing well of late. My model has Kentucky -4.5, and generally speaking, this is crazy, but when my model actually favors the favorite more, for some reason in college, it means fade the favorite.
Really?
So I'm kind of feeling like this is an avoid.
Okay.
And I don't want to. And when I say it favors or favors the dog a little bit, it's more of it gets closer to 50-50.
Yeah.
So when it does something like that, I don't want to bet anything that has like a 50-50 work. Now that money line thing, if I can bet straight up money line dogs, yeah, I'm going to go to the well with that one, because I can, even if I go 50-50 on money line plays, if I'm somewhere between +120 and +250, then going 50-50, I'm still making, 25, 30, 40% ROI. So I'm taking that. Yeah. Tennessee, Georgia, we already went through. Now, this is my upset special of the week.
Oh, boy.
I got Liberty over Arkansas.
Oh, stop.
No, I'm dead
+480
serious.
money line?
Yes, I'm dead serious. Arkansas is -13.5 in this game. My model has Liberty -5.5. And I went through and looked. I was like, let me make sure there's not something squirrely going on here or anything like that. But no, you go and look at Liberty there. Let me pull up the numbers here real quick. So
I know they're always good, like in their respective like conference and their respective like teams at their level. They're always pretty good.
Yeah, so let me explain what my model actually looks at when we're looking at these things.
They smoked BYU.
So first of all, Arkansas in my model, or just Arkansas period, they're shit, what the hell's going on here? Okay, sorry about that. All right, so they have their average margin is about break even, and their opponent's average margin is 2.6. Not bad. And obviously played in the SEC, they've got a pretty tough schedule, right? So Liberty's average margin is 11 points to the positive, and their opponent's average margin is only 3.5. But when you start digging deeper, so it looks like, oh, they haven't played anybody. But I think a lot of times we tend to, just like with basketball, we tend to look at these matchups and like names don't impress us.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, it's like so far this week, the dogs that have been identified by this model just for this week, and I sent this to all of y'all, so you know this. You saw this stuff before it happened.
Yeah.
Ball State over Kent State, cash. Central Michigan over Northern Illinois, cash. UTEP did not beat Rice, although they got close. It was 30-30 with 20 seconds left, and for some reason, instead of just getting ready to kick the field goal, Rice threw one more pass and they went for a touchdown like 12 yards out. And they covered the 3.5. So that's the one loss. And then Coastal Carolina upset Appalachian State. So all four of those dogs, the dogs won 3 of them straight up.
Dang.
And that was a 4.5-point dog, a 7-point dog, a 3.5-point dog, and a 3-point dog. And if you look at the ones that won, they like jumped out early and like never looked back. They never trailed in those games, and it was just they controlled the game. And a couple of them, it got close late, but they still ended up holding on. So that's the one where I'm looking at. I'm like, all right, the money is just too good. I cannot pass this up. I cannot pass up that money line with Liberty and Arkansas. And I've got to look at a couple of other things because there are some things where the model will predict incorrectly, because what it's doing is it's taking your schedule and the scores, the results, and then it's taking that for all of your opponents, and then all of your opponents' opponents, and then all of your opponents' opponents, and then it keeps going deep like that, so that all mathematically, none of this is eye test. None of this is my perception of how good BYU is or UAB is or Stanford is or anything like that. It's purely mathematical. And after 9 weeks of football, we are at a point where we have enough data that we can start to ferret some of this stuff out. The only thing that this model doesn't predict, because it's just taking all those mathematics in, is I can't figure out in there, all right, KJ Jefferson in, KJ Jefferson out, how some of that stuff plays. For instance, like it predicted Syracuse to win last week. Well, I didn't know that Garrett Schrader was going to get hurt in the first quarter.
Yeah, you
and
can't.
miss the rest of the game. So like that. There's some of those things where, or like NC State with Nick Leary. Them without him versus them with him are two different teams. Same thing with Will Levis at Kentucky. Same thing with Jalen Daniels at Kansas, and what's his name? Dylan, the Oklahoma quarterback, Dylan Gabriel with Oklahoma. You look at them; they got blown out by Texas, 49-0. They turn around and they annihilate. Was it K-State or somebody? They beat whoever it was. They beat the next weekend, and it was just like, oh, well, what a difference a stud quarterback makes.
Yeah, right.
It's not just a quarterback; it's like one that's really good. One is like
it's your guy.
It's your guy, your playmaker. Imagine Tennessee without Hendon Hooker. It's a completely different team. So
if only that could be the case.
Yeah. So no, you want to beat the best. All right. So
we
already went
through,
we already went through the Alabama LSU game. Auburn, Mississippi State. Yeah, let me pull that one up. What do you have? What do you have on? What do you think about that Liberty Arkansas thing?
Listen, you've intrigued me, dude. Listen, you've intrigued me. Here's the thing, because Liberty year in and year out is actually not like a bad football team. Like they fare pretty well against their competition and do rise to the occasion when it calls for it. Because they get a matchup like this at least once a year.
Right.
Liberty does. And it's not like, Arkansas is favored by 35. You know what I mean? It's not like they're playing the Citadel like we just talked about, or the, or some FCS school. Like Liberty is still like a decent team.
Right.
You're still a pretty not decent. They're a pretty good team, respectively.
Even without Malik Willis.
Yeah, even without Malik Willis. It's actually kind of impressive that Liberty has a good football team based on their campus culture and how they run their school. But that's also besides the point. If we're being completely honest, when it really boils down to it, the truth of the culture of that campus is shocking. We won't dive into that here, but it's actually pretty crazy. They have a 7-1 football team with the school that they have.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. So, all right. So moving along. So Auburn, Mississippi State. Auburn is a big dog going on the road, and they're rightfully so a big dog. The one thing I will say is I think what we have been witnessing with Auburn for the last at least couple of weeks. I expected to see it when LSU went into Jordan-Hare and actually almost lost, got down by 17 early, and then had to storm their way back and scored 21 unanswered points to win it. But Auburn has been like a dumpster fire the last few weeks. And now that Brian Harsin is gone, I'm wondering if they don't come out a little different. I've seen it happen before.
Better different?
Yeah. I mean, you've seen it when your coach gets fired in midseason because of underperformance, and then the team just plays differently under the interim guy. We saw it with Les Miles a couple of years ago. Ed Ogeron.
I think somebody might be speaking from experience here.
Yeah. Well, the same thing happened when they fired Jared DiNardo. Hal Hunter took over as head coach for a game or two, and we won a couple of games we had no business winning. We were 1-9 going into those games.
See at Georgia. I mean, like I said, I've I said,
I was gonna say y'all don't have that problem like
in my 24 years. Georgia has had 2 coaches, and they have
they've been really good,
and they were really nice to the last guy. So they gave him. I feel like you don't. They gave him 15 years worth of really trying. You know what I mean? Anyway,
for sure.
Love Mark Richt. Will never not love Mark Richt, but that's besides the point. I get what you're saying though. 100%. There is something to that where it's like, I don't know how the team felt about him, and maybe we will never know. Like, like with Jimbo, you could tell there's something going on.
Right.
Like with Auburn, it's like, they just got rid of our guy. Like that guy's the reason we're all here right now. Right. You know what I mean? Like the reason that we're. It's like we're all like.
But there was some controversy. Like it's not just.
There? I don't know much about.
There's some stuff, some other stuff that I think it was weighing on that program. Honestly.
Yeah. Well, see, in my brain, if we're being 100% honest, Gus Malzahn is still the head coach of Auburn in my head.
Me too.
That's neither here nor there. Like,
I don't know enough. Even though he's coaching another team, he's still coaching there. Somehow.
Yeah, the Gus bus is still rolling in Auburn, in my opinion.
It's rolling, just not there anymore.
Yeah, in Central Florida.
Yeah, Central Florida. Shout out to them. They beat. They wrecked one of my upset picks last week with Cincinnati. That was kind of disappointing, but it makes sense. They're
I'm just saying, it's still Mike Leach. I mean, what is your feel? Think about what do you think about Mike Leach?
I mean, I like him. I think he's eccentric. I think he weirds people out sometimes, but I don't know. He's
7:30 in Starkville too.
He's that guy. He's that guy at a poker table that you're like, fuck, why am I at this table? You know what I mean? Like this is the dude. This is the dude.
Make you uncomfortable, and that's when they get you.
This is the dude who's gonna call double the blind with like 3-8 suited or some shit. Like this is the guy who when 3-3-8 flops, I'm gonna be like, shit. I bet he just hit a boat. You know what I mean? Like, because that's just like you. I witnessed this firsthand. Like when we played them earlier this year, we had them 4th and 3 from like their own 25, and I was like, yeah, let's go. They went for it and got it. I'm like, what? Who in their right mind goes for it on 4th and 3 from your own 25 in the first quarter?
People are getting more bold. I don't know what's going on, but we went for it on 4th and 1 against Florida on our own 30 last week. Yeah. I don't know what's getting in the different. Water.
Yeah,
in the SEC.
I think if you have an advantage and you feel like look, like last night we saw it with Jalen Hurts against the Texans. They had the ball late. He ran. It was like 3rd and 15. He ran for like 13 yards or something like that. And it's like 4th and 1.5 or something. And they're just like, yeah, screw it. Like if this dude with his 700-pound squat legs can't drive the pile for another yard, then we don't deserve to win this game. And we're still up by 2 touchdowns. So they're going to have to score twice anyway. So let's just go for it. And let's end this shit now. And they did. They got it. So sometimes I get it, but like in a situation like that where, LSU ended up winning that game 30-16, and Mississippi State went for it on 4th down. I want to say 4 or 5 times, and
got it. What?
And three of them were on the LSU side of the field. No, they got it the first couple times.
Oh wow,
they got it the first couple of times, and then it was funny because like later on. The reason why we ended up winning that game is because we stopped them on a couple of those.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes that's why when I look at a matchup like this, I think there's some possibilities for this thing to go a couple of very extreme ways.
Yeah.
If Auburn is reinvigorated now as a program and those guys are, kind of hyped up where they're like, all right, let's go, we're playing for our jobs for the next coach or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
We're auditioning for the transfer portal, whatever you want to call it, then it turns it into somewhat of a different type of matchup. And you have that wild card of Mike Leach possibly doing some dumb shit and either getting away for it or costing his team the game because of it. So there's that. And then it's just, you said it. It's a night game on ESPN2
in Starkville
with all those damn bells, which I still don't understand why they're not illegal. Why can't I bring an air horn if those assholes get to go the whole fucking game? Like, get the hell out of here, man. I don't want to hear that shit. Anyway,
the vuvuzelas at the World Cup. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just bring a vuvuzela and just blow it right in their ear. No, let me not become the monster I'm trying to.
Right. No, that's like a legit thing too, and like they've banned it for the World Cup because of legitimate hearing loss of the fans. I wonder what like the average, if you did an audiology test of all the people in Starkville, and how horrible their hearing is from listening to cowbells for 4+ however many years.
Yeah, you could go to these study. You could probably do a study on some kids who didn't grow up there, who are like, they're out of state students.
Yeah.
And just measure their hearing when they get to campus their freshman year, and then give them season tickets and make them go to all the games, and then measure their hearing after their senior year. And I bet you they're at least 20% more deaf.
All right, Chad. I have a grand proposal. You and I are going to write up in a couple of years, and it's going to be fantastic. Okay, we're gonna anyway.
We're gonna make this experiment happen. All right. So last one, South Carolina Vandy.
Beamer ball.
What do you think here?
Beamer ball is going to somehow make it. Listen. I hope you feel the same way that I do, but I have the biggest soft spot for Vandy, where you can't even be mad at them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at least I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, they don't threaten me, so like, you know what I mean? I like they're trying, and they keep the conference GPA up, so it's kind of nice. It's like it's a school that like isn't like a 60+% acceptance rate.
Right.
You actually, like, no offense to our schools or anybody else.
Right. Well, but they're just not Vanderbilt. That's all.
They're just not Vanderbilt. At least we win, but it's fine. Vandy just loves baseball season for this very reason that we're talking about right now. I don't know. I think that I don't like South Carolina. Never did. You can thank Steve Spurrier for that one.
Yeah.
I have no thoughts there. I mean, it's just kind of
Spencer Rattler is talk about people who it can go either way with. He's just. Like,
I would love to see Vandy win somehow.
Me too. I would too. And look, so we talked about this. My model has South Carolina winning this game by 12. The spread is only 7. So actually, that's what I was saying earlier though. So if I go and look at this at the model and compare, all right, so games where the favorite is favored and they're favored by more points. It's only 30-20. So that's what I'm telling you. When I have the favorite favored by more points than what their spread is, they actually do worse. I don't understand it. I don't. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it.
It's almost like you would think about it. It's like, 12 and 6 is great. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's almost like
right. And I want to bet it. And it's like, no. What you should do is you should bet. You know what's really funny is when the favorite is favored by fewer points, but they're still favored in my model. Yeah. Those teams are 48-9 by comparison. Straight up. Now against the spread, it's 39-18, but against the spread, the favorite is 20-30 when my spread is bigger than the Vegas spread. I don't understand it, because then you look at the other side and it's like, okay, but when the dog should be favored, you know what I'm saying? When the Vegas dog is favored by my model, the Vegas dog wins half the time and beats the spread 75% of the time. But when the Vegas dog should be favored by more according to my model, they lose more often.
The favorite just doesn't get it done.
And they don't beat the spread. The favorite doesn't get it done. It's like they know about my model and they're like, "Oh, we got this."
It's like, yeah.
Like he said, he likes us even more. Let's stuff it. So I'm actually like, this could be one of those matchups.
71% of the bets are on South Carolina. I would love to see Vandy win, especially if it's in that. Bro, do you think that if Vandy gets a conference win, they rush the field?
Yo, that would be hilarious if they did.
Here's the thing. I don't know. You know what's so crazy? It's like Vanderbilt has all the makings of just an electric. Like you get a fantastic degree. You're in Nashville, Tennessee.
Right.
You know, like it's dude. I don't know. Like they could. their men's tennis team is fantastic, but like it's just
it's about the extent of it. That in baseball,
and
basketball every now and then. They used to be good back in the old Will Purdue days. That was a long time ago though. But so let me ask you this question: if Vandy wins this game and they charge the field and they tear down the goalposts and throw them into a body of water somewhere, do you think they have enough money, or will they run a GoFundMe to try to raise money to replace the goalposts?
Here's what's gonna happen: is their football team is all gonna get together and publish a book or a paper, and then they'll make the money off of that. That's what they'll do. It's like, okay, everybody,
that's right.
Great, it's research proposal time. Come on, let's go.
They're all just gonna go mine more Bitcoin or something.
Yeah, facts. They're all gonna research some new, cure some disease.
Yeah, that's right.
On their free time.
Oh shoot! So you don't have a stadium in your background, but right here, in about 24 hours, a little bit more than 24 hours, 25 hours roughly, is where LSU and Alabama will be taking the field.
24 hours, I will be sick of Gary Danielson because we're going to be about halftime ish.
Right.
Like,
all right. So here, quick question. All right. So if you guys have the ball late in the second quarter, maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes left, and you won the toss and deferred, and you're going to get the ball to start the second half, what are the odds that Gary Danielson says that, now they've got an opportunity to score here and then score to open the second half because they get the ball to start the second half?
My model says about 100%.
Okay.
My model,
all right. So if Tennessee is in that same position, what are the odds that he says that?
I feel like he always says it. Does he not?
Am I crazy? See, this is how you can understand and you can know, like right here, right now, secondhand, but it's firsthand for me. I will tell you that if LSU is playing someone else and that is a scenario for the opposing team, 100% chance that's what he's saying because he fucking hates us.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
If we have the ball,
he hates us.
If we have the ball with 45 seconds left and we're at midfield and we get the ball to start the second half, there's like a 40% chance he's going to say it.
No, you're right. No, I don't think he says it for us. I feel like I get what you're saying.
He says it for everybody else.
Yeah, I
hear it all the time when it's going to hurt us. It's like he's rooting for it. He's like, you know what? I hope they score because they get the ball to start the second half.
You know why? Because we're both threats to his precious Alabama. That's why he doesn't say it for us. Now, let me rewind because now I understand what you're saying. I say that if it's us, even in Athens, I bet it's less than 50%. But if Tennessee, here's Hendon Hooker's chance to get a, I can hear it.
Get a back-to-back.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt to, in the hedges.
Yeah.
And
I see it. I could see it too.
And listen, I just know that it's going to be a great weekend. Bottom line, wrapping it up here, I think it's going to be a fantastic weekend. I hope that when we reconvene next week that Georgia's 9-0.
Yeah.
But hopefully. I have to be a realistic individual. And it's luckily we are still the reigning national champions, and it's the one loss will not hurt us. It's to
hopefully we see something like this next week. It's gonna feel a little bit like this when we get back together next week.
Yeah.
Start back around there.
Yeah, but this was fun. I'm excited for where this show, we have our safe space to talk about everything, anything SEC. It's lovely. Nobody telling us we can, keep a move on.
Right. Move on. Talk about Northwestern and Ohio State.
It's like
we talk about that crap.
Talk about Rutgers and Iowa. No,
we will not talk about
Stanford and Cal. No,
I hate that we even said these teams' names while we were talking. It's terrible.
No,
I will say this though. I feel like when we get back together next week, you're going to be in a much better mood than I am. So I'm just kind of preparing myself for that.
I hope we're both in a great mood next week.
I hope so too. Look, I got my mom and dad are coming over. I got ribs already marinating. We're gonna smoke some ribs.
I have to work tomorrow.
We're gonna be throwing down. Yeah, I'm not going to the game. Yeah. My daughter's going to the game though. She's got season tickets as a student, and this is the first game she's gonna go to all year. I was like, gee whiz. But she's working. Yeah, dude. She's working too much.
Fair enough.
Yeah, she went to damn near every. I think she went to every game in 2019 when they won.
Okay, I can understand that. Listen,
yeah,
I can respect that. I'll be working during the game too, so I'll just be having to keep an eye on it. My
I'll text
parents
you.
will be my parents like they moved into a new house, right? They have like a bar downstairs. They have like all our Georgia stuff. They have like our Georgia stuff hanging out, and like they had everybody over for the Oregon game to like open up the new house, to open up the new bar. They've invited nobody over for. Nobody's coming over tomorrow.
They didn't invite.
No, not a single human, because they don't want to subject anybody to the amount of stuff that's going to be screened in my house tomorrow.
Listen, man,
my parents are smart and they know what they're doing. I will never forget what there was, because obviously we live in Pennsylvania. It's a funny story before we get off.
Yeah.
It was I think it was Christian Hack, or it was Tracy. Anyway, Georgia and Penn State played in a bowl game when I was in high school, and it was us, and we had all of our Penn State friends over, and then we boat raced them, and it was so funny.
That's like what you had when you went to that Michigan game last year.
Yeah, it was us.
Same kind of setup where you were in a sea of blue and yellow and maize and gold or whatever. Or no, maize and blue, whatever.
Maize and blue.
Yeah,
maize and blue.
I said the same color twice.
You know why I know that? Because it got yelled in my ear 40,000 times all night.
Maize and blue.
I saw it everywhere.
It's not. It's just blue and yellow.
My parents know what they're doing. I would be shocked if they had anybody over. But they had two close friends who are not even Georgia fans, but they have become proxy Georgia fans for us.
Right.
They're Penn State and all that, but they still come over. So they may be over, but they're smart. There's going to be a lot of yelling, and I hope my parents are still going to be happy, still feel okay after the weekend. It's going to be a great weekend. I'm happy to be doing this show.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Me too. This is fun. I'm glad we got to kick it off finally. We've been planning on doing this for a long time, and we both said to ourselves, there's no way in hell we are not doing a show before this matchup, this set of matchups, because this is as epic as it gets. And I wanted to let everybody know, like, the guarantee that we're going to be around for a while is that somehow or another, I'm getting this man to come down to Baton Rouge in 11 months, 10 months, something like that. It's 10 months from yesterday, right? It's September 3rd.
It's the September 3rd. I think it's gonna be dude. Yeah, we'll talk about him. I would love to make that.
We're gonna go live. We're gonna go live from tailgating parties and shit. Like it's gonna be epic. It's gonna be lit.
I just like it. I'm excited. I hope, and we'll make that happen.
Yeah.
Now that I'm I got big boy money to work with. You know what I mean? We can make it happen. But yeah, man,
look, we got stuff we can do. Like you won't have to pay for parking. We'll park at my parents' house. We can walk down the road to campus. They live right off campus, and so it's.
My question to you is:
cool.
Are we going to be able to get into the game?
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll get tickets. We'll get tickets well in advance.
Because for Penn State, a lot of and I'm sure it happens at every college, but a lot of people will go to just tailgate the whole day but never go in. They have the game on the TV. Like I would, as a Georgia fan, I would love nothing more than to be able to go inside Tiger Stadium to watch a game. That'll be.
You haven't ever been?
Never.
Oh, you got.
I've never been to LSU.
Yeah, we got to make that happen.
Because I live in Pennsylvania. I've been to 2 UGA games at Athens, and then the one in Miami for the playoff. So I've always seen Georgia in person 3 times in my life, but we still love them.
So how do you? So is this a family thing? Like
I'm from Atlanta originally.
You're from Atlanta, but for how long? If you lived in Pennsylvania for that long?
What do you mean?
Like how long were you in Atlanta?
Oh, till I was like 5.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So like you kind of you got it. So you got it like as an infant, toddler, and little boy, and then you moved, and you're like, well, I'm still a Georgia fan. Screw these people.
We held on.
I was just wondering if you if you lived there long, because that's that age where like you.
I did not live there long enough to be able to experience it. Like I said, my mom's from Georgia, my dad's from here.
Okay.
So my dad went down there. He used to
scooped her up.
I don't know if you ever heard of Baja Beach Club, but he used to run that in Buckhead.
Okay.
I used to be like that was his thing. And then so big Georgia fans. And he made the right decision to go down there and become a big Georgia fan.
There you go. That's right.
But yeah, it's crazy. It's funny enough is that we are massive Georgia fans, and neither one of my parents went to Georgia.
That's crazy. And you didn't
My,
either.
yeah, neither did I. I wanted to, but I wanted to be a nurse, and surprisingly enough, I am a nurse, but Georgia doesn't have a nursing program. So, but you gotta prioritize. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not.
Yeah. No, right.
You know, yeah. So that's just kind of how that worked out. That's my Georgia fandom wrapped up in
No,
a
that's
minute.
cool. So my story is I went to my first LSU football game in the womb. I was born in January. So my mom was big and pregnant when I went to my first LSU football game. And I couldn't see anything, but man, I could hear it. So it's been like ingrained in me. My parents lived on campus at the Married Student Apartments. They got married in '72, and then went to LSU. My dad went to LSU. My mom was like working to help put him through college and stuff like that. And they had me a couple of years later.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was so I grew up on campus at LSU.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
That's awesome.
it's a very different
Yeah.
story. Both of them.
So great.
And then my mom graduated from LSU when she was 50.
Okay.
She didn't ever go to college. And then she went for interior design when she was in her 40s, and she graduated. I say 50. I don't remember. It was rough. It was around there. It was like, she was like 48, 49, 50, something like that when she graduated. So our whole family is LSU grads. Like my mom, my dad, and all my siblings.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And see, I didn't think we should have talked about this at the beginning of the show. So everybody stuck around.
Yeah, we can. I'll put something together. We can edit some stuff together and make a little.
I just think it's funny. Or whatever. Yeah. But so my mom's from Georgia, my dad's from here. But yeah, none of us have ever gone to the University of Georgia. And but we're still like, if you're from Atlanta, what am I going to be, a Georgia Tech fan?
No.
Like, and you think like, and it's funny because I'm the only Georgia fan that probably anybody knows around here. I get all the texts and calls coming at just the right times.
Yeah.
And the good and the bad, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I get to be obnoxious about like, oh, they know that he likes,
Yeah.
And it's like, my dad and I, we'll go to watch, we've got to go to the bar to watch the games. And of course it's like, especially last year where it's like everybody around here is all Penn State, but we walk in, we're in our Georgia stuff during last year's season. Like, oh, come on, guys, you can do it. We're like, you just shut up until, like, listen.
I went to a Buffalo Wild Wings in Baltimore during the playoffs with like my Cubs gear on, and I was watching.
Dude,
I'm a Cubs fan.
Serious down there. Baltimore's not far from here.
Like,
I got to watch about the Orioles. Doesn't matter how.
I got to watch Jose Bautista walk him off against Ubaldo Jimenez to knock him out of the. It was like the wild card game or whatever in 2016, and it was just so funny because everybody in the whole place wanted them to put Zach Britton in, so you could just shut the door. It's kind of like what Houston did last night with Presley. It was like, no, we're not dicking around with this. Shut the door now, and he did. But yeah, they bring in Ubaldo Jimenez in there because Buck Showalter wanted to hang on to Zach Britton until they got the lead. Well, they had to wait until next April to get a lead because that ended their season. So that kind of shit happens. But yeah, it's fun to walk into that environment because you just like, you're the outsider. Ain't nobody else in Baltimore wearing Cubs gear except me. Yeah.
So. I'll tell you what though. Listen, Penn State is one of the most fun places to go. For different reasons. But it's also funny because you and I are like similar in the fact that like I like Georgia, and I don't live there. I didn't go there.
Mm-hmm.
You are a Cubs fan, and you are living in Louisiana, and then for me it's the Phillies and the Sixers, and obviously who doesn't love the Eagles? I'm not. I never, and that's the other thing for me is I've never been a fan. I've never had a NFL team as long as I have lived who I have like lived and died over. You know what I mean? It has been the Georgia Bulldogs. I feel like we were Falcons fans when we were younger. I feel like I remember owning a Mike Vick jersey when I was a kid, a Mike Vick little toy football. I don't know where that went.
Little toy dog.
But yeah, you know what I mean? I feel like I do remember that. But other than that, it's been the Dogs. And
that's what I'm saying. Like, how could you be a Michael Vick fan and be a Bulldogs fan? Like, that just seems like incongruent, like something that's a match there.
Yeah, Jesus.
But no, I just hope there's not too much glass in my house for the game tomorrow. There's a lot. I have 3 big glass windows in my living room. I'm gonna have to be just very careful. I don't throw anything and have it ricochet off a window. But folks, you have been watching the South Endzone podcast, the inaugural edition with myself and Tyler. This is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be bringing you all these takes as often as we can, and we're gonna ride it all the way through at the very least until we get to that matchup next year in Baton
Hey, listen,
Rouge.
if people like us, we'll do this for the rest of time if it has to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, however long it needs to be. That's right. But we love it. We enjoy it, so I don't really care. Like y'all can jump on or not.
We want to make it very serious, very, very clear that this is a safe space. There's a reason it doesn't say the Georgia LSU show up here. There's a very clear reason for that. This is for all of the SEC to come and just be happy in our bias. That you know what I mean? And
and it's gonna be fun too, because I'm looking forward to, like, as we get down later on into the season, we get closer to the SEC championship, then into the bowl games, the playoff, but then we get into recruiting season too. Like, that's going to be intermeshed in there too, where we're going to be talking about that stuff as well. And the early signing period is not that far away. We're about a month away from that, month and a half.
And I know you're a basketball guy. But
big time.
I know you're a basketball guy, but here's my take on Georgia basketball. We're terrible, and that's how we're gonna be. So I don't have that. I just did my Georgia basketball segment all in one shot. We're bad, and we're gonna be bad.
Then I'll just talk shit. I think we're going to be pretty good, and we're going to be pretty good for a minute, as long as we don't have a whole bunch of horrible recruiting violations come down on us.
But this has been a great time, and we'll
really fun. Yeah,
keep it going.
Appreciate y'all. Y'all keep coming back. We will too. Peace.
Later.